Hey there, podcast listeners. We're excited to share a special message from our sponsor, White House Foods, a family-owned and operated gym located right in Winchester, Virginia. At White House Foods, they're not just about great taste, they're dedicated to quality, sustainable, and family traditions. For over 100 years, they've been planting and nurturing apple trees to bring the best apple products on the market. Whether you're craving delicious applesauce, tangy organic apple cider vinegar, or rich apple butter, White House Foods has got you covered with their all-natural, high-quality offerings. So the next time you're shopping, remember to look for White House Foods products. Taste the difference that comes from family care and dedication. Visit their website at whitehousefoods.com or look for them where you shop for your groceries. Thank you, White House Foods, for sponsoring our podcast and for bringing the best of Virginia's apple harvest to our tables. Welcome to Cold Coffee Chats, the podcast where we dive into the beautiful chaos of motherhood, the ups and downs of marriage, and the journey of growing our faith. I'm Brittany.
I'm Aubrey.
And we're your host. Each week, we'll gather around the table, coffee cups in hand, to share stories, insights, and a good dose of laughter. Whether you're navigating the sleepless nights of new parenthood, balancing the demands of family life, or seeking deeper connections in your marriage and spiritual journey, this is the space for you. Together, we'll explore the real, the raw, and the relatable moments that shape our lives. So go find that cup of now cold coffee that you probably laid down somewhere, get comfy, and let's chat about the beautiful mess of life. Here, Aubrey, do you want to talk about your weekend before we get into this podcast, or do you just want to forget it and move on?
I kind of want to black it out, honestly. For anyone who has had kids, we had the awful, terrible hand, foot, mouth in our house. And it was a rough go. Rosemary, our youngest, she is almost 2, had it the worst. And it just really took us down. Yeah, well, it was hard because Magnolia, she literally had a fever for a day. She was calm. She just wanted to lay around, watch movies. We're like, Rosemary, nothing can hold her back. She wanted to do all the things still.
They are not the same.
No. And she was almost more reckless, being sick just because, I don't know.
She was so annoyed that she was just like, ah.
Yeah, I'm just going to, she fell in the bathtub. She wasn't in the bathtub and slipped and fell. She was outside the bathtub in her clothes. Luckily, I had just started the water, so it wasn't deep. But I turned to grab the bubbles off the bathroom sink, and I hear a huge, just commotion behind me. And I knew exactly what had happened because it's a fear of mine. I always shut the door when I'm running the bath but I don't know. We're going to have to put some kind of lock on top.
Right there,
because,
so.
Yeah, I was right there. Thankfully, it just started. But, yeah, and there she is, just face first,
well, that's
feet sticking out the top because she's fallen in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She keeps you on your toes.
She's my testimony. She really is.
You don't have boys, so you don't have your wild boy who's doing all these crazy reckless things, and you just hold your breath and hope for the best, But you have Rosemary.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I feel
is worse.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
I love her so much. So, she is just the funniest.
She's so lucky she's cute because, oh my gosh.
I love, she's doing something reckless. She just looks you dead in the eye and is hey.
She knows.
Yeah, she knows.
Yeah. So. As she's, climbing the kitchen chairs, I'm like, Rosemary, no.
Yeah.
And she just looks at me, smiles, and then continues her trek.
Maybe she'll be a stunt woman one day.
I literally told Matt that the other day. Yeah, I agree. But, anywho. Yeah.
So, I'm glad you're on the other side of it now.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Well, kind of. I don't know. I did take her to school today. She's still looking a little crusty, but...
Well, they stay that way for a little while after a bad case of hand, foot, mouth. So.
Yeah. I've had it as an adult, and it thankfully never was on my moneymaker, on my face.
Bless her little heart, her little face, man.
I know. Well, it's in their mouth, but yeah, Rosemary's is on her cheeks, and her nose, which I thought was
that's
weird.
awful. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I guess like everywhere she puts her hands.
yeah. And she's not a real nose picker, but I guess like rubbing her nose and
Yeah.
stuff, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun, in the most sarcastic way of saying that word. But yeah, if you have any tips of, remedies, it's like the worst thing they can get, and there's no medicine for it, which is really unfortunate.
Hopefully now that Rosemary's had like a really bad case of it, if she gets it again, it'll be like Magnolia's experience.
I want you to knock on wood, because this is her second time getting it, and this has been the worst. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know, is there like different strands of
that,
hand, foot?
and they're not supposed to get it, like once they get it really bad, it's never supposed to be that bad again.
Okay.
So we'll see.
I'm going to take what you just said and hold on to
I might be making that up. I'm not a doctor. I just watch Grey's
you already
Anatomy.
said it. I watch Grey's Anatomy. I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that on the way here.
Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah.
You should watch it.
Well, I was
like,
just
I know you
about,
did,
like they have like doctor experts who like help the writers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get into that? Is that, like, do you just have to know somebody in Hollywood and also be a doctor?
Maybe.
Or, that's like a dream, right? Like,
I don't know though. I've learned so much from that show. Like, I was talking to Mom about like a medical thing the other day, and I was like, oh, like they actually take off. Like, we were talking about brain surgery, and I was like, and they take off part of the skull, and then they'll, once this and that. And she was like, how do you know all of this? And I was like, oh, I watch Grey's Anatomy. And she was like, I don't think that's just TV. And I was like, no, like I looked it up too, and it's actually factual. Like a lot of things are over the top on that show, but you can get like a PDHD.
I just don't understand how you can watch it.
PDHD. What am I? PDA?
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say you can get a doctorate from watching. Guys, I didn't sleep well last night. Paige woke up screaming, and it's dark, and I'm out of it. And just ask Jason, I'm the worst. Like, I don't know what happened to me. With Benjamin, I never slept. He never slept, but we made it through. With Paige, she sleeps. So, like, I don't know how to not sleep now. So she was crying, and I heard her, which normally I don't even hear her. Jason's normally the one to get up with her, but I got up, and I'm, like, out of it. And she's crying, so I go to pick her up, and she screams even louder, and I realize that she has got her foot and her leg is stuck in her crib.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it's dark, and I'm using the monitor to, like, have enough light, and she's been like this for a while, obviously. Around her ankle is, like, a little bit swollen, so I had to, like, pick her up and, like, twist her, and we got her out, and I just put her in our bed with us, and she slept fine the rest of the night, but like we did, like I'm like on the edge, and so it was like terrifying. I thought I like broke her leg for a second, but
oh my god,
she was all good. No marks this morning, no boo-boos, so we're good. But
oh, poor thing.
Yeah, kids, man, they're an adventure.
They really are, and that's the thing. Like the ones who do sleep, they spoil you.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they expect to.
The one night they don't, that you're like wrecked.
Yeah,
where like Benjamin, like I just built up this need to not sleep.
Like a tolerance.
A tolerance. Being awake. And now I have no tolerance for not getting my sleep.
Well, you have making up to do.
Yeah, it's bad. So anyways.
Kids.
And so when you have kids, going into our topic for today, you need a lot of prayer. Mm-hmm. And you need to know how to pray. And all the things, all the T's and P's when you are parenting. So today we're going to talk about prayer to start. And I guess we can start with one, like, why is praying so weird? Like, why is praying...
Like, on your own, but especially also when in a group setting.
Yeah, because, like, on my own, I feel like I got this. Like, I'm just talking to a friend.
Yeah.
But the minute we're in small group, and I did not realize how awkward I was. And I think it's because I never had like a family dinner when we pray out loud. We either all say a blessing together because kids, or like we have pastors in our family, or we have dad. So we've always had like
self-proclaimed pastor.
Yeah, we always have like a designated person who's obviously going to say the prayer. It wasn't something that like
just anybody
did, right? Yeah. So, and then anxiety. So just like the fear to speak out loud about anything is like real for me. But then put on the level of like prayer, that just is like, oh gosh, like like just can't even speak. And so why is that? Like why? Because, if someone in a crowd asks me like, what happened on Grey's Anatomy last night, I'm like, let's be best friends, let's chat about this. But if someone asks me, can you pray for me about this? I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. Like even if it's just like one person.
One-on-one,
like with you.
yeah.
I'm
like,
oh, I'm unequipped. Yeah.
So why is that? And I think this is pretty common, and I think we can say that from like just even our small group.
Yeah, nobody wants to do it.
Nobody. Everybody's like, look at my feet, look at my hands.
Yeah,
like
it's like when the teacher is like,
Yeah.
you can answer, and you avoid
eye contact. So like, why is that? And is it one? I think it's because like, I don't know, like growing up that
we
prayed.
We recited a prayer before meals,
right?
And it was the same one every time.
Mm-hmm. Or when we prayed at church, like we repeated what the pastor was praying. Like the prayer was always given to us. We never had to come up with the material.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow up like that, you then think, well, I'm not equipped to come up with an out loud prayer. I don't have those skills.
Or like when you do hear someone pray, it's like a professional.
Yeah.
And so it always sounds so like articulate and like
eloquent.
Yeah, like big words, and it flows well. Where like I'm self-diagnosed ADHD, and so like my prayers to God when I'm by myself are very like sporadic, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't care, like he just wants me to be talking to him. So, like, it's fine. But, like, for other people to be in on that, it just...
Listening to your, like, ADHD out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, like, I lost my train of thought. Or, like, oh, I can't remember the word for that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Right? I think it's that. I also think that, like, I will start to pray out loud, and then I realize, like, the magnitude of what I'm doing, and I internally panic. And then everything comes out as mush. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the opposite of what prayer is supposed to be. I think prayer is supposed to be like a surrender. Like you're just supposed to like, I can't even think of my words now. Yeah. You're supposed to just like
lay it all out there.
Ignore everything else.
He wants you with your imperfections.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be perfect.
He's okay with your ums and your and all that and your weird words. And it's just a conversation. And like, when I'm in the car, I can be like, what is happening? Like, oh my gosh, I need prayer for this. Like, God, did you see that? Like, what? And I can talk like with my own voice, but I feel like when I'm praying out loud with a group, I need to be like, dear Lord Jesus, Heavenly Father. We need your touch tonight. And all these eloquent sayings that you hear. And while that's beautiful, and I'm sure God appreciates that, I don't think that's what matters.
Yeah. I read this thing and it was like, it could be uncomfortable because, you're talking to this all wonderful, all powerful, all knowing, God, and it brings out like vulnerabilities of being unworthy. And I don't know if it's that just because when I'm by myself, I don't feel that. I think it's, when other people are listening to you pray, maybe their judgments of like, oh, you don't know how to do this. You're unworthy to even talk to him.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that judgment started. Obviously we grew up in a very small, very traditional church. You didn't, I think, practicing prayer, that starts really early. And I don't know. Kids were never really asked to pray. Like you said, it was always given to you. So, I think a lot of it is the devil too, We're always looking at like what God's done in our life and, or what, we feel like he hasn't answered on. But I think a lot of people don't really look at, how the devil is trying to get into your life too. And like when we read that book by, was it Jenny Allen?
Yeah.
Find Your People, and how God built you for community, but the devil will make you, feel like you need to isolate yourself, or like, make you, what is the word? Insecure. Yes, thank you. See, this is why I can't pray in front of people. Will make you feel insecure about certain things, and he will want you to be isolated. I think it's the same thing. He will make you feel unworthy of praying to God so that you won't.
Yeah. I think there's also like this thing, like, so as you were saying, like, we grew up in a church where like the kids didn't lead prayer. And one time I remember visiting a church, and I think I was like in high school or college, I don't know, but we were getting ready to eat, and I mean, it was adults, kids, teens, and we were waiting. I thought we were waiting for a pastor to come pray over the meal, but we were just really waiting for prayer in general to bless the meal. And this girl who was my age, high school, college, raised her hand. She was like, "Is everybody ready? I'll say the blessing if everybody's ready." And they were like, "Yeah, that would be great, thank you." And this girl my age, who was just a member of like the youth group or the young adult group, blessed the meal. And I was like totally taken aback, because I was like, she's worthy of saying the blessing. And I know that sounds crazy now, but just growing up and having this idea that like I wasn't worthy of saying a prayer out loud to people at church, like that was a pastor's job or someone more qualified than I am. And I think we do that a lot, just like in general, like, and it's something I still struggle with. Like I see someone in church worshiping and I'm like, wow, like their worship is so beautiful. I love watching them worship, but I'm not worthy of that. Or, oh my gosh, she speaks so well. Like I love listening to that podcast. Like we'll never be that great, but I love listening to her. And when we do that, we're really idolizing those people, and like I think innocently we're just like admiring them. But when we put it to the point that like we aren't that, we can't be that, then it becomes idolization. Is that a word? Okay. Yeah. And that's the exact what God doesn't want. Like God made each of us. God made me. God made you. God made the girl who worships so beautifully at church. God made our pastor. God made Jenny Allen, and we're all just people of, and anything that they're worthy of, we're worthy of. And that to me is mind-blowing, because I think insecurity and just all of these things, like sometimes that's so hard to believe.
Yeah. No, I love that, because and it's like downplaying his power, right? In us, when we're comparing ourselves to others and like, oh, they can do it, but like I'll never be that great. Like who do you think helped them get there? It wasn't just them. They had God behind them, and
they were just using their gifts that God gave them. And anyone who's gifted with those things or wants those things or has that passion, like you can do that too.
Like, and they glorified him. So,
Yeah, and I think all the differences is between those people that we idolize or that we admire to the point of like becoming idolization, which is scary and not good. The only difference is they had their confidence in God, and we waver on that.
Yeah.
And I say that because I do it. I think we all do it. I think even Jenny Allen probably does it. I don't know, but I think we all have those moments because we're human. It's just the difference is not staying there. Not believing it. So,
I think too. I was reading like the statistics on couples who like pray together, and I don't know. Like it feels goofy, to like sit with your spouse and like pray like for each other. But again, like I think that's the the devil getting into your head, where like I think it's less than 1% of couples who pray together end up divorce, where the national rate is like 50%. So that's a huge difference. But it's hard. It feels goofy.
It does. Jason's told this story at church before, but when we first got married, we didn't really pray together in the sense of like a regular prayer time together. So, but one night we had the dumbest fight. It was about something really dumb, but it was intense at the moment. And I was just so mad at him. And he was just, for lack of better words, he was being dumb. And he was just, he was just being a man. And he was, not seeing my emotions. That might have been all over the place. But anyways, we had gotten to a point where we weren't getting anywhere. It was late. I was tired. He was tired. And he just kept talking. And I was like, shh. Because I was over there praying in my own head. And maybe not with the best intentions, because I'm sitting there praying for us, but also for him. And he was like, oh my gosh, did you fall asleep? Why aren't you answering me? And I was like, I am praying for you because you're being so stupid. And I don't recommend that. But from that night on, we ended up laughing, and I was like, no, he's like, I literally thought you fell asleep. And I was like, no, I was praying for you because you're not being open to seeing my opinion, and I'm too emotional to even understand where you were coming from. Because at that point to me, he was just being dumb. And, which I know he wasn't, it was just us not being able to see each other's sides. But so from that point forward, every night before we go to bed, we pray together, and he normally just does prayer because, he's equipped and I'm not. I'm just kidding. That's exactly what we're talking about not being tonight. But, it's not always perfect, and it's not perfect. And sometimes I fall asleep during it. If I'm being honest, I've fallen asleep a couple times during it because it's usually we're exhausted. But since then, we've done that every night, and I just think it's made the biggest difference. And it's also I don't know. My stomach just growled. I hope that doesn't.
I could hear it. Wow.
Sorry, guys. I didn't eat breakfast, so hopefully y'all couldn't hear that. But anyways, I do think it's one of those things that is very intimate, and it just brings you closer together. And yeah, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend starting doing it before you get to the point of calling each other dumb.
Well, he would never.
He would never, but I did. He is a better man than... I'm not a man. Never mind. I was going to say he's a better man than me.
He's a better woman than you.
I remember reading this verse back many years ago, and it says, when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. That's Matthew 6, 7-8. And I thought that meant oh crap, I'm just babbling words. And it actually meant Jesus was not impressed by these people who called themselves masters of prayer and would just use big words and eloquent words, and maybe their prayers weren't coming from the right place, or they were just praying not from their heart, but from their intelligence or whatever it was. And so it took me a while to think, because I took that verse totally wrong. I took that as ooh, I babble a lot, I ramble a lot. But that's not what they meant. They meant don't get up there and just say these big words and these big eloquent phrases when there's nothing behind your prayer.
Yeah.
So that made me feel a little better about not being a professional prayer.
I don't know. One time you made me fill in as leader for your small group. I don't know where you were. It was rude though for you not to be there. But yeah, I wrote out the closing prayer in my notebook.
I do that sometimes
before class, because I was like, oh God, what if nobody volunteers? Which they probably won't, because they never do.
They never do.
So I did. But even that, I was like, well, now I feel like I'm not being, oh my God, genuine. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is bad. This is why I have to write it down.
The panic is
yeah, my mom brain, it just, words that are more than 5 letters, forget it. Mm-hmm. They've gone from my
luckily,
dictionary.
God doesn't mind.
God doesn't mind. No, but sometimes there's no other word for it. but yeah, so that's when I feel like it's not genuine, which is, kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
but my effort was there.
No,
But
I think that's actually one of my, when someone, not that people ask me that often because I'm not an expert, but if I had to give someone advice on like how to start praying, write it out. I journal my prayers all the time. Like at night, I write out prayers, and I don't, it's just sometimes they're list, sometimes it's like a journal, like a note. Like it just depends on the night, the day, my heart. Like,
yeah, I also think like, you shouldn't never be below like Googling,
Yeah.
it's such a good resource, honestly,
Yeah.
because, like when Matt switched jobs not a long time ago, but a while ago now, he was just kind of, so for context, he worked in our family business. And after we had our first daughter, he was working a lot and just about every weekend, and kind of got to the point where he burned himself out. To where he felt like maybe he needed to leave and kind of go somewhere else, which was kind of really hard on our family, and also, our extended family with my own parents and us. It was kind of a difficult thing to navigate, but it was what he felt he needed to do, just to, I don't know, regain confidence, or just maybe to get a little bit of a break. I don't know. But anyways, I felt like I needed to be supportive, you know, whatever that looked like for him. So he took a job, even though, he was making, it was kind of lower than, what he was really qualified for, just, to get something at the time. And then I kind of felt like he wasn't reaching his potential. And so I like Googled, I was like, what are, verses to pray for your husband? And it was really good. And that's when I did started journaling my prayers a lot. And I really feel like that's, one time I can really say, not that God hasn't answered my prayers, but like that one really sticks out to me, because I was like, I can't even remember what the verses were now. I'm sure I have the notebook at my house somewhere. But yeah, so then he decided, he was like, you know what, this isn't challenging me, I need to get back. And and so he reached out to my dad, and now he's back, and I feel like he learned a lot. Like, it was something we had to go through. But also I think, he ended up where he needed to be in the long run.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Google's a great resource.
Yeah, I think Google's great. I think if you're just starting out, like praying, there's a lot of resources on Google and a lot of tips and information. I think there's also this, and literally this is something like we've taught even kids learning how to pray. And it's, if you have a hard time like keeping your train of thought, to think of acts and start your prayer with adoration. So like, God, I praise you. Like, I love you. You are just the greatest, the greatest God. And again, these words aren't eloquent, coming from like just beginning here. Like, it might not sound like what your pastor would pray, but that's okay. C is for confession. So, God, I've been worrying a lot lately. Like, please forgive me for worrying about things and not trusting you. And then T is for thanksgiving. So what you're thankful for, thank him for all the blessings and all the good things. And then supplication. And that means this is just that your time, you end it with bringing your request and your needs before God. And I think that keeps things simple. It also like helps you like not get lost in your thoughts. So acts, ACTS, adoration. Oh my gosh. C is for confession, duh. T, thanksgiving, and S is for supplication. So that's a really simple resource, but
I like that.
thank you.
It's so good.
I didn't come up with it, but if you Google, it's all over the place. So yeah, I think that can be helpful, especially if you're just like going through like a super like tough emotional time, or you're a new mom and like you can barely like keep anything straight. Just a simple way to help yourself get through prayer and not be overwhelmed by it, or like, oh, I can't even think right now. I can't bring myself to.
Do you still use your war room?
Yeah, so Jason makes fun of me because we turned a closet in our room into like my space, and it's amazing. It's got like a cute chair and a blanket, and it has like all my books and Bibles and pens and all the things. I love it. The problem is I do use it.
Do the kids follow you in there?
The kids follow me in there. The kids think it's like this like really cool place. Around Christmas time, it becomes like where we hide presents. So it sort of like gets invaded. But I also started getting lazy, and I just started taking my Bible to bed and sitting in bed and reading my Bible. So I just need to get back to like, no, that's my space, and that keeps me like from not getting too sleepy and all the things. But I mean, it has like a sliding door. It's just basically like a side off of our room. But yeah, I highly recommend it if you have a closet or just like a corner, a little space to make it yours. And for the most part, the kids are like, now that like the newness of it is over, like they don't care as much.
Well, for context, why I said War Room, it's a movie.
Oh, yeah.
War Room. And basically, you know, she's turned her closet into a prayer space, you know, and you post your verses and you post different things and, you know.
Yeah, I love like sticky notes all over the wall. It looks like I'm solving a crime on a mission. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're solving your life problems.
Yes. I also have a Taylor Swift calendar up in there, which is
I'm not sure he would approve of that. No,
you know, I think God likes to know who we are and all parts of who we are. And
T Swift is a big part of that.
I'm a Swiftie. But mostly just because I need a calendar in there.
I see so many people who have gone to the concerts, and I'm just like, how have you made that happen?
I know.
How'd you get tickets?
Major ADHD moment here.
I know, sorry.
It's fine. I mentioned Taylor Swift, so.
That's true. You have a calendar, so.
But I keep thinking I hear a door. I don't think I do.
I think it's the little beep beep thing.
So basically,
if you're struggling to pray, ask and be genuine.
Be genuine about it. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Because it's for God. It's not for everybody else.
Yeah.
Unless you're praying for them, then it's a little bit about them. But, you know.
I think, too, like, if you know you're going to be in a situation where, like, the opportunity to pray out loud might come, like, this sounds weird, but pray about having to pray out loud, you know? Like, pray for the confidence and pray for the words, and, you know, especially when you're praying out loud for people or instances, like a lot of times if you just take a breath and don't make it about you and your nerves and your anxiety and just give it to God, like the words will come to you. And that sounds really crazy, but I believe it. I think sometimes when we lose the words or freak out and start rambling or can't think of words, it's because we've let like anxiety overcome us and like our heart's not in it. So that's my non-professional advice.
I thought that was great.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Really quick, I have if you don't have anything else on prayer to add at this moment, I have a story that
I would love to hear your story.
Okay, so it's sort of related. And I think, you know, growing up a kid who's always gone to church, it's just a little different from growing up now, like the experience the kids have at the church we go to now. I mean, they go to church and they come out and they're like ready to share Jesus with everybody. And I love it so much. And I think that's how it should be. And it also makes me wonder, like, when in your childhood does it happen that you're like, ooh, I don't want them to think I'm weird. Like, I don't want to push it on them, which is really sad because we're called to have a faith like children. But anyways, Benjamin came home from school the other day, and he was like, Mom, it was really hard playing on the playground today. And I was like, did you guys play soccer? Because they play soccer like every day. And he was like, yeah. And everybody was really mad at, I'm going to call this boy Sam for the time being. It's not his name, but. And I was like, why? And he was like, he was not being a good team player. And he was saying mean things. And everybody was like hating him because he was being so mad. And I was like, well, were you hating him? And he was like, no, I wasn't hating him. But I did tell him something. And I was like, oh gosh, what did he tell? And he said, well, everybody was saying mean things to him because they were mad at him because he was being so mean. And I said, guys, we need to love Sammy. We need to love our enemies. And I was like, oh, he's your enemy. And he was like, well, he was our enemy. He was being mean. And he wasn't being a team player. But I told him that the Bible says we need to love our enemies. So we were going to love Sammy. And I was like, what did your friends say? Because I'm thinking like, oh, wow, like my kid on the playground, like, love your enemies. Like, it's hilarious
He
to
went
picture.
full disciple.
He went full disciple. And I was like, what did your friends say? They were like, oh, that's a little weird. We don't want to love him, but all right. Like, and I was like, there you go, buddy. And he was like, yeah, I don't think they knew that the Bible said that, but they do now. And I was like, that's amazing.
Oh,
I love that. And every day when he gets out of the car, I'm like, Benjamin, what's the most important thing to be at school? And he's like, he says a good friend. And I'm like, yes, be kind. And, there's probably kids at your school who don't know who Jesus is, but they might see his light through you. So shine like Jesus. And every day, that's our thing every day. Sometimes he's so sick of it. He's like, I know, shine like Jesus. But that day he took it literal, man.
Aww.
Like
That's so sweet.
It made me really proud of him. And I just hope he never loses that because I was worried because one other time, Benjamin never gets in trouble at school. Like, if anything, he's like an anxious child because he does not want to get in trouble. He hates it.
He's a rule follower.
Yes, he is. He's very much a rule follower to the point that sometimes I'm like, it's okay. Like, but he's only gotten a call home once, and it was because he was discipling in public school. And a little girl in kindergarten, her grandma passed away. And she was upset at school. She had come back from school, and she was like, my grandma passed away, and I'm so sad. And Benjamin was like, well, did she have Jesus in her heart?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And she was like, I don't know. She's 5.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows? We don't know. And Benjamin was like, well, if she had Jesus in her heart, then she didn't die, and she will live forever. And he was like, do you have Jesus in your heart? And then he started like asking everybody if they had Jesus in their heart. And Precious, but, public school.
Yeah.
So, which, is a whole topic that we'll talk about one day, I'm sure. But, so the teacher called. She was like, hey, I love it. I totally respect it. But he did scare some of the kids because he was like, when you die, you will die forever if you don't have Jesus in your heart.
God.
Yeah. So we had to talk about like, how to disciple and how to
read the room,
how to talk to kids about Jesus and heaven. And we just had to bring it down a little bit and not take it away, but just maybe not be so aggressive. And so you don't want to scare people into faith. You don't want to scare people into loving Jesus. So I think we've made progress.
I love that so much, though. And kids, they're so pure.
Yeah.
And, like, so innocent. And they just, all they know is that, like, Jesus loves them, and that's enough for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, for adults, I always am like, oh, I can't, bring someone to Jesus because, like, I don't even know enough, And, like, what if they ask me this? Like, I don't know the answer. And they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't think about that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And I think, for our kids, that's the greatest gift we can give them is just like leading them to know who Jesus is and getting them there because at the end of the day, like, there's nothing greater that we
Yeah.
can do for our kids. And
I think our church is so special in that they let, so we go to a Pentecostal church now for reference. And like, we grew up in a Methodist church, and not to say anything bad, we loved our church, though it was very traditional. And so like, we didn't start going to our Pentecostal church till Brittany and I were in our late teens, early 20s. And, everyone's got their arms lifted, like they're worshiping like there's no tomorrow. And like, you can just tell, like, the majority of the people, they have Jesus in them. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying about light, like those people, they just have something special about them where like, you can tell, like when you meet them. And I just think that's so, like, just amazing. And I love that our kids are growing up, that way, because there's no like shame for raising their hand. Like, our kids know how to worship, and they do it unapologetically. Yeah. And like, I still, I only lift my hand up when the pastor like, tells us to. But we're getting there.
No,
but,
I thought when we first started going to that church, I thought, like, the raising of the hands thing, I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. But like, I'm not worthy of that, because obviously that's something that God puts in you. And like, if I'm meant to raise my hands, like, God will somehow like raise my hand, like, guys, that's how much I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently, and I think our current pastor was like, it's not about, raising your hands is not about something that you're worthy of. It is showing that you love God. It's a way to worship God. And even like starting to work with the kids and stuff, I'm like, oh, so God's not going to tell me in my head, like, raise your hand, because it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about me worshiping him. And it's an outward way to show you love him. Yeah. And I was like, my mind is blown. This whole time I've been waiting for God to just like physically raise my hands. And that sounds so dumb now, but genuinely, when we started going to that church, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I thought, I guess I'm not worthy of it. Like, he has not risen my hands. He has not physically moved my arms up, because I'm not worthy of it. And I know now that sounds so stupid. So I've really been like, my hands
this whole time
I've had control.
I could have been having fun.
This whole time I've had control over my arms. Like, I'm allowed to raise them myself. I don't have to wait for God to tell me I'm worthy of it. And that, I know now that sounds like ridiculous, but I didn't know, because at our church growing up, like, you stood when you were supposed to stand. You recited the verse you were supposed to recite, and there's nothing wrong with that. And gosh, I love our little traditional country church. Like, so many great childhood memories. And like,
and there were very special ladies there that we love so much.
The most special relationships. And I have memories of, like, that's where my grandma went to church, and that's where I sat at church with my grandma. And I love everything. I love that we grew up that way. Yeah. But there's something very special about
loving Jesus outwardly.
Yeah.
But Magnolia, she definitely had. So we go to Wednesday night church and we go to church on Sunday, and so she's very passionate about the Bible, and like, we'll read it any chance she gets, and it's just she's such a little inspiration. When she wants to be. Otherwise, she's just terrible 3-year-old. But she sat down in her little rocking chair, and she's like, okay, I'm going to read a story to you all. And I was like, okay, great. And then she goes, first, I need a blanket. Get me a blanket. I was like, oh, yes, ma'am. So I get her a little blanket, and she's sitting in her little rocking chair, and she's got her little toddler Bible. And she opens it up to a random page, and I don't even know if it was this story, but the picture was of a boat on the water, and it looked like it was a little stormy. And she goes, and every time she talks about it, she talks so loud, like when she's reading from the Bible. And I'm just like, man, she just wants everyone to hear this. Mm-hmm. And she goes, this is a story where the water was really stormy and they were scared, but Jesus came and saved the day. Oh. The end. And I was like, I mean, she's not wrong. She's got the gist of
main
it.
Points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cute. I love that,
Like she picked that up.
She could flip to any picture and like, kind of recite some kind of story from it. And she's 3.
Yeah.
Almost 4. And I just, I think I love that.
Yeah. And I think like that I've said it and I say it again. I think that's the greatest thing you can do for your kids is lead. You cannot force them into a relationship with God, but you can lead them there. And I'm so glad our parents did and instilled that in us. But because I can't imagine, and God forbid, I hope I outlive all my children. I pray to God I do. Or no.
I'm like, no, that would be terrible.
No. I
this is why we don't lead prayer.
This is why.
You hope all your children outlive you.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh. But, God forbid. But I never want to have to wonder.
Yeah.
And I just, I can't even say it out loud. But
like you want to be reunited with them.
Someday. Yeah, I want to be. Yeah, and I just think like, what greater gift can we give them than like an eternal, like leading them to a relationship with Jesus so that they have life for eternity. And wow, we went deep today, y'all.
We did. Look at us.
So I think that's all for today. I don't want to overwhelm with prayer.
But I guess just to end in saying, pray unapologetically because it's not for everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's for you and God, and He wants you the way you are.
Mm-hmm. And to end us out, we've been trying to think about how to, not that we're experts on praying, we're totally not, but just to give some guidance on prayer. I think we want to help. We want to help in any way. So starting after this podcast, we will have short little, they're going to be less than 5-minute episodes where it's just going to be guided prayer for different topics. And it's just going to be like what's on our heart that week. And there might be 1 a week. There might be 2 some weeks. It just really depends. And they'll be on different topics. And sometimes they won't be on a specific topic at all. But they'll just be little episodes you can play and you can listen and pray or listen and then continue to pray, but just a guided resource to help you in your journey of praying. On that note, Aubrey, would you like to pray us out?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's a test of everything we just did.
What did the A stand for?
Oh, you don't have to stick to that. That's just a...
All right.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to be noisy for a second because I want to be able to... Okay.
All right. Dear God, thank you for this opportunity to podcast with my sister. Please help us to reach people and bring them closer to Jesus. And we love you so much, and you are just done such great things in our lives, and we hope to spread your love to others. Amen.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you. So beautiful. Thank you. I did my best.
On that note, guys, we're out, and we will see you. We won't see you, but we'll talk to you soon.
Sponsored by White House Foods, serving generations of consumers since 1908.